You're listening to the Ricky Long Podcast.
Great thing is I've got so many answers to this, which is something that I didn't think I'd ever have. It definitely gives you a massive appreciation for life in general. That sounds so wishy-washy, but I don't care. People don't appreciate, and again, this is me included, people don't appreciate the things they have until they're gone. And luckily, it doesn't take much for me to get into that mindset of like, okay, just appreciate this. Like, I'll be out walking Ollie and I'll just sit and it'll just hit me. I'll just be like, I'm so damn glad I can walk and I can breathe and I don't have to panic about how long this walk's going to take because I have to be back for a certain time, or even the fact that I can walk as long as I want without feeling like I'm going to collapse, which a lot of people, that's reality to them. And it makes me it's probably made me a really laid back person. I think it's definitely made me a more laid back person. It's like my mum described me as like, obviously she's got two sons, my older brother and then myself. And my older brother is very highly strung and stressful. And she's just like, I don't think I've ever seen Benjamin. She calls me Benjamin. Like stressed. Like it's very rare that I'll see him stressed because I just have the mentality if it's not going to matter in 5 hours, don't spend 5 seconds on it. Like it's just, get on with it. Stop sweating about the small things. Realistically, if I asked you about this 5 days later, you're going to be like, what was I panicking about? What was I thinking about? Like, that's reality. So I just think, shit happens. Get over it.
You're listening to the Ricky Long Podcast, where international fitness entrepreneur Ricky Long answers your questions and interviews fitness leaders on training, nutrition, and mindset. Ricky is a fitness industry expert, having been helping people achieve their fitness goals since 2002. We talk everything fitness, business, and group exercise to help you on your fitness journey.
Episode number 57 of the Ricky Long Podcast, and this episode was an absolute pleasure to do on a number of reasons. First of all, the guest I had on who gave up his time to chat to me, chat to you, and just continue to spread his message is an absolute gentleman. He is an old friend. We go back a long time, which we do chat about briefly in the episode. Mr. Ben Mudge. Ben is a fitness entrepreneur. He does online coaching, online PT. He runs specific programs for a very, very specific type of person, and it's for what he stands for. So Ben is affected by cystic fibrosis, which is a disease which has it affected Ben his whole life, but kind of not affected him at the same time, because he's turned it into his his whole reason why, and everything he does is not only based on to make himself healthier and feel better, but to spread that good message and positive messages to others who are affected by CF and by families who are affected by CF. So we're going to talk into that loads and loads and loads. Massive thank you to Ben for coming on. We'll chat a little bit about fitness business, what his fitness business is doing now. And like I said, we met about 7, 8, 9 years ago now, back in Fitness First Belfast, Conswater. I was one of the managers in the club when Ben came on for what I did find out on the episode was his first job in fitness. And it's amazing to see what Ben is doing now. So, we do live in a world where, social media does give people so much impact and positioning to spread a message. And Ben really, really does that. He is, he's my first 6-figure guest. And, he's got over 100,000 followers on Instagram. He's got the elusive blue tick. But you would never, ever know that from speaking to him. Very, very humble. He's as humble now as he was when I met him 7, 8, 9 years ago. We talk about that, and we'll talk about what's next for Ben in terms of his fitness business. Some really, really cool, exciting stuff. He gives us a great insight onto that. And we obviously talk a lot about cystic fibrosis. If you're a bit like me, you might be aware of it, you might know bits and pieces, but honestly, I know very, very little, or knew very, very little about cystic fibrosis, and throughout this episode, I'm so grateful to now know a little bit more about it. I'm a little bit kind of regretful I didn't know more beforehand, when I would have been closer to Ben when we did work in the same gym. But hey, times have changed, and I'm really, really happy that we've caught up in this episode, and I'm even happier that we get to share it with you. So just before we hand over to Ben, I want to make a quick, is it an announcement? I suppose it is an announcement. Our podcast sponsors, Podium for Sport, are doing a free giveaway, a £50 giveaway, as part of this episode and this episode alone. So to earn a £50 shopping voucher to be spent in either the Podium for Sport shop or online, their website, www.podiumforsport, you need to do the following things. You need to, at this point, screenshot your phone right now of this episode. You need to then post this episode on your Instagram story. You need to tag Ricky Long. You need to tag Podium for Sport. You need to tag Ben Mudge. And on the next episode of the Ricky Long podcast, I will announce who the winner is of that £50 voucher. To recap, with a screenshot, you got to tag me, Podium for Sport, Ben Mudge, stick it in your Instagram story, and that will be you entered in for that £50 voucher. Podium for Sport, you can check out all their stuff all over their social media channels and their website. They specialise in equipment for schools, and they also do all the traditional commercial fitness gear, everything from Reebok kit, which I know a lot of my listeners will be interested in. There's Under Armour, there's Nike, there's Adidas, there's Golf, there's North Face. You can even build a gym using the equipment that Podium for Sport supplies. So that's the Podium for Sport giveaway with this episode number 57 of the Ricky Long podcast. Up next, handing over to Ben. About an hour's worth of chat. Please enjoy. Let me know any feedback you have.
You're listening to the Ricky Long Podcast.
And welcoming on to this episode of the Ricky Long Podcast is a good friend and I was going to say old colleague, not that he's old, but just a long time ago we were once colleagues, Mr. Ben Mudge.
How you doing, Ricky?
I'm really, really good. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. So I need to address the first and most obvious thing is the haircut.
Yeah.
So for those who maybe haven't seen Ben, he has been through quite a transformational process in the last 2 weeks with the haircut. So why don't you tell people about the haircut and then we'll tell people about you.
So obviously you're on it cut off a little bit there, but we're good.
That's all right. Continue.
So so obviously this is not a visual thing, so I'm just going to have to be very descriptive with my words here. I had very long hair. Well, not very long. It was just, I had long hair and I decided to grow my hair long because I hated having short hair and you never knew what to do with it. It seemed like everybody, and this is as boring as it is, by the way, the story. It wasn't anything to try and look like Thor or anything, but that just kind of was a happy mistake. I hated having short hair because I never knew what to do with it. It seemed like everyone who had short hair would just know exactly how to style it. Every morning I woke up, I was like, that'll do. And then I left and then I'd see photos of myself and I'd be like, oh, you look like an idiot. So I was like, right, well, if it's long, I can either have it down or tie it up. That's it. And that was my thought process behind it. And then I started growing it out, which is, if anyone's done that, and I have a massive appreciation for women now, it is a pain in the ass growing out your hair. Like an actual pain in the ass. You go through so many phases. Everyone's like, oh, you'll get this one phase where it looks terrible. There's like 7 or 8 where it's just like, I have to wear a cap. I have to wear a hairband. I can't quite tie it back yet. So I have to like then slick it back and look like a Spanish person for a while. So there's all those stages that no one tells you about. But then with that, the comparisons to the character Thor, specifically Chris Hemsworth's Thor, not necessarily the cartoon or the comic, started coming up, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. You know, I've never really had a cool nickname. Thor's a pretty cool nickname. And then the coolest thing happened was, obviously I've always been into comics and stuff. That's, if anyone knows me, that's evident. But I started doing this thing called Thursday, and the kind of concept of Thursday came from me being just an absolute nerd and looking up why we use the words of the week. You know, where they came from. I was like, why do we call it Monday? Why do we call it Tuesday? And when I Googled it, it turns out it's all from Norse mythology. So Thursday is literally Thursday. Tuesday is Tears Day. Wednesday was Woden's Day, which is Woden is Odin, and so on and so forth. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'll teach people a bit about this. And I had the hammer. I had this like hammer that I got from over in England. I took a photo and just hashtag Thursday, and it just blew up. Yeah, it was ridiculous. And with that, I mean, obviously a lot of cool things has happened from that. But the best thing about it was the fact that kids and parents with kids with cystic fibrosis, which is what I have, which I think we're going to be talking a little bit about more later, started saying, oh, this is so cool. My kid thinks Thor has cystic fibrosis. And I thought, this is cool. I can actually really make use of this. So I started posting up photos of me taking my nebulizers, which are the medication I take for my CF. Thinking, you know, with the idea that I hate taking them. I hated taking them when I was a kid. If I saw a superhero, I'm air quoting here, and I realize it's an audible thing, but Ricky can say, yes, I'm air quoting in the video. If they could see a superhero taking what they hated taking, it might make it a bit easier for them to take it. And it may be a good bargaining tool for parents, for kids who are a little bit resistant, like I was, to taking the nebulizer. So I put that up, and yeah, it was genuinely the best decision I ever made. When it comes to social media, it's just doing that. But yeah, fast forward to, sorry, yeah.
No, I was going to say, you do that very well on social media, and anyone who would observe your social media, having not known you at all, it would be a little bit, okay, this is a fully grown man who dresses up as Thor, and it's very, very easy to make a judgment on that. But then when you read into the reasons why and exactly what you've just said there, like it's such a powerful message. And it's basically like in a nutshell, I dress up as Thor because it helps children take life-saving medicine.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that goes beyond, you know, hashtag influencer, you know, hashtag FitFan. That's an actual reason to... You can't plan for that. You know, you don't turn 15, 16. Your teacher in school asks you, what do you want to do? You said, oh, I want to dress up as a superhero to help children. Like nobody sets out to do that. That's something you're kind of accidentally find. Yeah, and you know, I'm a big fan of the saying, like your mess becomes your message, or your biggest pain is your biggest reason why. So you obviously spoke about, you know, cystic fibrosis, and we will talk about that, but we'll talk about cystic fibrosis now, and a bit about you. So tell people who might not be too aware of you, who you are, and how CF plays such a role in your life.
So I am obviously Ben Mudge. You've probably heard that already. I'm 29 years old. I'm from Belfast, Northern Ireland. Not Ireland, as many people like to confuse it with.
Oh, tell me about it.
Friends. Yeah, oh, I'm in Ireland. It's like, mate, you're in Northern Ireland. It's a different country. And I have been in the fitness industry now for nearly 10 years. I sucked at school, to be honest. And that wasn't because I wasn't intelligent, which I believed I wasn't for a long, long time. It's because I wasn't interested in what I was doing. And I feel like a lot of people, actually had a conversation with a PT about this topic. A lot of people who go through the schooling system and don't feel like who don't do well in that type of system, come out thinking, am I dumb? Like, am I not that intelligent? But it's until I found the things I really enjoyed that I realized, okay, maybe I'm not as stupid as I thought I was. But my original passion was, after leaving school, was film and media. I wanted to be in the process of making films. I wanted to be a director. I just loved that whole that whole industry, and I still very much do. I was lucky enough to get working on a couple of projects. I worked on this little show, Game of Thrones. It's just a wee indie film.
Yeah, part of that.
TV.
Yeah.
A couple of people, not many people have.
Aye.
But worked on that, which was hell, to be honest. It sucked. I met some very nice people there, but I met some very unnice people there.
What did you do in Game of Thrones? Because everyone now listening to this is going to be like, oh my God, what episodes have you been in?
So I was an assistant director, which sounds incredible, but it's basically just...
really does.
Yeah, I basically looked after the crew, sorry, not the crew, the cast and the extras. So basically there'd be some days where there's some days I was riling up crowds to make them excited about something that wasn't happening. There was other situations where I was sitting with the Hound.
Mm-hmm.
Big dude, Joffrey. I was also Joffrey's stand-in for a lot of scenes. So Lena Headley had to do a couple of lines at me while they waited for the guy Jack who plays Joffrey to get ready. So I was standing or sitting and getting talked at by Lena Headley while she was doing her lines.
Oh wow!
I also got to sit in the Iron Throne quite a lot, which was cool because they used me. Basically, a stand-in is someone who just sits in the position the actor's going to be in. They light you, they get the audio, they get the focus pulled on you, and then they swap you out and they put the actor in.
So how long ago was all this?
That was 2000 what would have been 2010 or 11, I think.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's been a while. But it was actually on set on that where I was miserable, and I was speaking to one of the extras who was playing a Dothraki, and it was a day that Jason Momoa was there, and Jason, I think it was his first gig, like proper gig, and he was quite nervous and he wanted to make sure he was getting everything right. This is me saying this in hindsight, by the way. That day I was like, this dude's a dick. Like, sorry for swearing. He's taking so long. Like, every time he did one take, he'd run off his spot, and he'd run around, check the VC, and ask the director for a thing. Instead of just waiting to get directed from the spot, he would just run off, and then everyone would move. And it was just adding to our day. I was speaking to a Dothraki extra, and I was like, so what do you do? And he's like, oh, I'm a personal trainer. And I was like, what's that? He's like, oh, I help people in the gym, and, I basically get to train all the time. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a typical PT. I just get to train all the time. And he says, yeah, you look like you're in good shape. You should give it a go yourself. And I was like, yeah, all right, cool. I like helping people train. I like training myself. It's very important for my health. And then, yeah, that was kind of it. That was, again, that's a very brief story of it, but that's kind of how I started in the fitness industry, and best decision I ever made. Yeah,
so it was actually after that we probably met after that, because I don't know if it was your first job, Fitness First Conswater.
Was yeah.
Yeah, so I remember you come in. I was the studio manager at the time, teaching all the classes. You come in as the personal trainer, fitness instructor, and
fitness instructor first, and then the personal training after that.
So back in the days, and I will drop in. My audience will love this. That a little known fact about you, which probably isn't on social media that much, is you actually did the 2-day initial module training for Les Mills Body Pump. Describe that in a couple of words.
Hell. So that's the only word I need. I can still remember it was me and my friend Johnny.
Oh, you know quite well Johnny C, yeah.
We both did that course, and I think I'm not making excuses for myself, but I gave it my best, which I'll always do. But I was still recovering from having a decreased lung function. Again, I'm not making excuses because I freaking hate them, to be honest. But I just remember thinking, this is really, really hard. And the nights that we finished, because it was the 2-day course, we did an ice bath in my parents' house. So I was still living with my parents at the time, and it got to the point where we had like a hot shower on, and we had the ice bath, and we were just swapping, and it was horrendous. It's just the pain would not leave our legs at all. And we go back and do it again. I was like, this is terrible. Fair play to anyone who does this as a job.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So, right, you've touched on it quite a few times. We'll catch up with you, kind of what your fitness business looks like now. So just and you and I have spoke quite openly about this before we started recording. What is CF? Because there'll be a lot of people like me with a very, very limited understanding. So, and my understanding basically comes from being friends with you and following your journey on social media. And, obviously before social media, I kind of knew bits and pieces. For me, it is you have reduced lung function, and I know like basically nothing else. So there'll be a lot of people like me. So you've got reduced lung function. Tell me what CF is and how it affects you.
Okay, so cystic fibrosis is a genetic illness. So it takes both of your parents to carry the cystic fibrosis gene for a child to have it. So I've got an older brother who doesn't have it. He's got one copy of the gene. There's me, who got both copies of the gene, and then my sister, who only got one copy of the gene. So I'm the only one of the three who was lucky enough to get that sweet CF. And basically, in essence, it's the production of sodium. It affects the production of sodium within the body and the regulation of sodium in the body. So sodium, and it affects the mucus within the body. So mucus is like the oil of a car. It affects just how well that car runs. The oil or the mucus within your body, someone without cystic fibrosis, is much like the water you're drinking right now. If you swirl that around in the glass, it moves very freely in that glass. Someone with cystic fibrosis, that glass or the mucus within that glass would be it'd be more like PVA glue or wallpaper paste. Okay. It's a lot thicker and a lot harder to move. That makes a lot of internal processes harder for the body. But the biggest thing it does is that mucus is a great place for bacteria to grow. So that mucus is in your chest, and let's say you get a chest infection, the bugs get in your chest, you feel a bit crap for a couple of days, you clear it out with some antibiotics that you take all the way through, because no one's stupid and doesn't finish an antibiotic course. Awesome. And then you're fine. Whereas with someone with cystic fibrosis, the bugs get into that mucus and they make a flipping base camp in there. And it's very hard to clear that up, because you imagine like trying to get in underneath that mucus to lift it out is very difficult, because it's so sticky and thick, whereas yours is just so clear and it wants to move. So that basically happens if you get chest infection. The bug sits in your lung tissue. It then destroys that lung tissue if it sits there for too long untreated. And then this process happens again and again and again and again and again. And then you basically lose your lung tissue, which means then you need to get a lung transplant. But because cystic fibrosis is a genetic illness, it has a lot of different mutations. So I've got the most common mutation, which affects 50% of the people with CF, but there's loads of other variations of this because it's genetic. Some people have, like myself, I have pancreatic deficiency. So my pancreas doesn't produce lipase, which is the enzyme that breaks down fat. So a lot of people with CF, before these pancreatic enzymes, Ricky can see them, a lot of people passed away because of malnutrition, malnourishment. So they literally couldn't digest fat.
Okay.
You've also got CF-related diabetes because it affects the pancreas. Yeah. Luckily, I don't have that. There's a whole host of things. Anything you can think of that would, be a knock-on effect. You get brittle bones. You get reduced growth. So my dad's 6'2". I'm 5'8". There's that height thing, because basically growing up, you cannot absorb, no matter how, you can take your tablets, that does do it to a certain degree, but I'm not going to get as much nutrition as someone else. It'd be like, if I can optimize it, I'm still probably going to get about 95 at the best % of what I put into my body, whereas you get 100. And that's kind of in a nutshell. That's what CF is. Again, it's so varied. There's not like a mild form of it. There's not a severe form of it. It is what it is. And I just try and do my best to manage the variables that I can control. And that's kind of my approach to it.
Yeah. For those listening who maybe haven't seen Ben is in, if you don't mind me saying, incredible shape. both aesthetically and from a conditioning point of view. So I know you've done, quote unquote bodybuilding shows. I'm not very good with the names of those, but I also know the level of conditioning you put yourself through just in a standard gym session. Like if you were to enter some sort of CrossFit competition, I'm sure you would do quite well in the Metcon. So your level of fitness and your both, like I said, functional, if you can use that word, and aesthetic, is that common for people with CF, or have you made a move to make yourself that way?
I've definitely made myself, I'm kind of trying to get that. It's definitely not a common thing with people with cystic fibrosis. In fact, there's some people who, I regularly get this comment, I can't believe you're like this with CF. How did you do this with CF? And I was like, well, I just treat myself like everyone else. Like I'm not an alien. My muscles still respond to stress, recovery, nutrition, like everyone else.
Yeah.
That's the mindset I had going into, that's the mindset I have for going into anything, that I'm no different to anyone else. And if someone else can do something, then I'm going to damn well give it my best shot. And I didn't realize that was the mentality I had until literally a couple of months ago. I was listening to a book, I think it was one of the Tony Robbins books, and it was talking about that. And he said there's some people who genuinely believe that they can do anything they want. And I was like, yeah, actually, kind of that's the way I think. If I see someone skateboarding, for instance, and they're doing these amazing tricks, I'm like, first of all, that's flipping impressive. I appreciate anyone who does anything to a high level and is passionate about it. But I also think if I did that, if I spent the amount of time that person's been doing that, I could probably do that too. It's not an arrogance thing at all. It's just they have chosen to spend their time getting better at one thing. I have chosen my time to get better at something else. And if I had, swapped those around, there's no reason why I couldn't be at the same level as what they are. I genuinely don't believe that. And now obviously there's some people who have genetic advantages, like, what was it, Michael Phelps' lactate system doesn't work like everyone else. He could be an idiot. So there's things like that where you're restricted. But yeah, my thought process behind it is, if I can do this, so can anyone else. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I always stayed natural and never touched anything that would not allow me to say this message honestly, because as soon as I did that, I just feel like I couldn't speak to parents in the same way. I just couldn't deliver the message that I wanted to deliver if I ever went down a route that would be deemed as not cheating. It's not cheating at all. It's just something that you couldn't do naturally, essentially. Yeah. And there's nothing I've achieved that anyone else on this planet can't achieve if they're able-bodied. But that's the mindset I took into it, and that's the message I'm trying to give people with cystic fibrosis is, yes, you have been given this diagnosis, but don't let someone else's limits dictate yours. The doctors have tried to do that to me all my life. And if it's even got to the point where they challenged me on what I was doing, and I literally looked up and went, effing look at me. I'm not going to swear, but I was so angry. I was like, it was going through that kind of, I think it was the period where I was transitioning from careers as well. So I was pretty pissed that someone was challenging me in how healthy I was. Yeah. They were like, are you taking creatine? That's bad for you. Are you taking that whey protein? When someone says that anything supplement, you're like, oh. And I basically yelled at them saying, like, look at me. I'm clearly doing something right. You guys should be listening to me. I shouldn't be listening to you. Again, that sounded so arrogant, but at the time I was like, you know what? No, like this. Like these people should be listening to me. I'm clearly doing something right, and yet they're flipping having a go at me taking creatine. I was like, do you understand how creatine works? I do. Here's how it works. And they're like, oh, what is it? Protein's bad for your liver and kidneys? Show me the papers that prove that. I actually said that to her. I was like, show me these papers that prove that. I will sit here and wait. It takes you 5 hours. I'll be sitting here waiting to show me those papers. And she just went, and then walked off. And I was like, yeah, damn right, get out of here.
Yeah. Everyone's an expert until they're proven wrong.
Yeah.
Until, science is correct until logic proves it wrong as well. I read that quote yesterday, I think it was. I might have heard it in an audiobook, and I thought I absolutely love that. So growing up as a child, in your teenage years, and obviously this is such a part of your life. Were there opportunities that you weren't being given, or things that maybe at that point you thought you couldn't do because of CF?
Yep. School sports. Sports was something I never really got to participate in because I was too small. Because I've always been naturally lean, and I'll never pretend that I wasn't anything but lean. I was just always very lean but skinny. It wasn't like a nice lean, not the lean you look for nowadays, but that meant that I was extremely light in school. I was fast. I was very, very nippy, and I've maintained that, thankfully. But that never allowed me to get on any rugby teams. So, I mean, I went to every single practice. I tried my best to get on those teams to prove that I could do what everyone else could do. But they just never picked me because I think they just saw me as too small. And simply because I just couldn't build muscle at that time. You know, I had testosterone wasn't my best friend yet. So I just couldn't do that. And that really knocked my confidence. In fact, it still has a kind of lasting effect on me to this day. That it makes me, but it's a positive thing because it makes me appreciate every single thing, every single compliment, every single opportunity that I get physically as well. Even being seen as the big guy, I'm like, wow, that is it still affects me. It's still like I still take that like so positively, and I'm just like, that's so cool. I'm that guy. Like I was never that guy. And it's almost like that skinny kid / early teenager is still in me, and he's being able to like take all this in and be like, well, okay, this is cool. All this work that you've put in has been worth it. So it's given me such an appreciation for everything that I get.
So I was going to ask about the medicines that you have to take on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. I think you go for checkups. So what does that all look like?
So again, for me, because of how I've looked after myself and my health is my number one priority, the amount of medications that I take is very small compared to some others. Okay. In fact, I actually said this. Someone on social media the other day asked me what medication I take, and I told her, and she was like, "Oh, wow, is that it?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's it." And she's like, "I've never heard of someone taking that few medications." She's like, and I was expecting her to kind of get a bit pissed, but she went, "Fair play, like that's amazing. Like you should be so proud of that." And I was like, "Oh, phew," because people say I can take things so personally, but at the moment I take, creatine, flip's sake.
Medicine.
I do take creatine. I take, yes, this is medicine. I take Creon. That's why, and you know what it is? It's even it says here it's Creon and then creaton, which is why I got it. Just mix those two words together. And Creon is essentially digestive enzymes, so you could get them if you needed them, but it's specifically high in lipase because that's obviously what my body doesn't produce. So I take those with every meal. Obviously, if it's got more fat in it, I take more of them. I take vitamins as well because obviously my pancreas doesn't produce lipase. That means I don't absorb the vitamins A, D, and K, the fat-soluble vitamins, as well as others. So I won't be able to get those naturally out of my foods as easily as you would. So I have to take those. And then on the last thing I take, which is crazy, and I'm so proud of how short this list is my nebulizers, which I take one nebulizer pod, which is pretty much like an inhaler. So anyone who's got asthma, it's that little blue one you take. It's a vasodilator. It just opens up all your airways, gives you a wee bit of a light head sometimes if you haven't taken it in a while. And then the second one I take is a thing called pulmazine or Dinase. There's loads of foot names for these things. And what it does, this is amazing, it goes into the mucus. Like you inhale it, obviously as a gas, it gets into the lungs and it breaks down the mucus at a cellular level. It actually alters the DNA of the mucus to make it more viscous so I can then clear it up. Right. Okay. And that's it.
I've just jotted down a question here. And it's, so why so few medicines? Do you think that's because you're just, lucky with CF, or because of the way you live your life in terms of training and nutrition?
I've always hated the word lucky when it comes to CF.
Yeah.
because it implies that there's this magic. Well, there's magic kind of making sure that, oh, look, they're casting a little spell on him. He doesn't have to take that tablet. It's not. That's not. It's like it's. Whilst there is some fortune, I'll have to say that. It's been my hard work and my not just hard work but intelligent work, because sometimes the most intelligent thing to do is not work hard. It sounds really silly, but like that's like, for instance, yesterday I was broken from doing that CrossFit workout and then playing. I play flag American football, and I'm like 29. I feel it. I feel it the next day, like my hips, my lower back. I do a lot of running and a lot of sidestepping and a lot of movements you can't really replicate in the gym, or they're very hard to replicate in the gym. So the next day I was like, oh, my soul. So I thought, you know what, stubborn, kind of maybe younger, less experienced me would have been like, screw it, go to the gym. You've got a day to go to the gym, go and do it. Whereas now the intelligent me is just like, right, your body's sore. Just jump on the assault bike and do 20 minutes nice and relaxed. Just get your hips moving, get your back loosened up, do some foam rolling. So sometimes hard work isn't the best work. It's smart work. It's the best work.
Love that message.
But yeah, I think it's a mix. I mean, there's obviously some, I say, luck in the fact that I maybe have bumped into someone who has a chest infection, who then I get that from. It's not really, and everyone's lucky at that. It's like saying that, oh, you're lucky you didn't get hit by a falling piece of debris today. Like that's not luck. It just happened, or it doesn't happen. Yeah,
luck's relative. It's, are you in a position to take advantage of what life kind of gives you? So I was just curious, if somebody who knows a lot more about CF than me, obviously, is surprised by why you take so few medicines. I was just wondering how much of that is natural and how much of that is because of what you've manifested in your life by way of your training and all that.
I mean, my entire life, including my career, revolves around my health being the number one priority, which then that means that I don't work early, because that means I get to sleep. The sleep is something that I will push and push and push until the day I die. People do not get enough sleep. And it's just as simple as that. Like, people, there's definitely this mentality nowadays that, the less sleep you get, the more of a hard worker you are. I mean, you look at The Rock. The Rock, for example, he's a fantastic role model, but the one thing I freaking hate that he pushes is team no sleep, only step 3 hours and getting up to go to the gym. Yeah, fair enough. But you're probably taking stuff that, well, I mean, I nearly guarantee he's taking things that other people aren't taking. He's also a millionaire, so he gets all his meals made for him. He gets a private plane, so he could probably sleep on that plane. I mean, if you tried sleeping on a commercial plane before, it's not fun. He's pushing this mentality down to and again, I absolutely love The Rock. He's an incredible person, but that's one of them. He's like the kind of biggest social media role model really nowadays, and he's got such a powerful brand that whatever he says, a lot of people will take. I'll be like, right, I'm Dave, I'm a plumber, I work 9 to 6 at night, and I go and train, team no sleep, I'm only get 3 hours sleep, I'm still here grinding. You're like, yeah, but you're gonna die. Like, still down. And all the work you put into the gym means nothing if you can't sleep. Because muscle doesn't grow in the gym. It grows when you're at rest and when you're sleeping. So my biggest priority is that people get the adequate amount of sleep. And I genuinely think that's as why as I am one priority.
Yeah. Well, what's your philosophy on sleep then? Do you work in hours and blocks, wake up times, or
No, I don't really have much. I just make sure that I've always got this thing is when I go to bed, I'm like, okay, do I have anything on tomorrow? What time do I have to get up? How long will that give me to sleep? And as long as I get at least 7.5 hours, I'm good. If I can get more than that, I will take it. If I don't need to get up, I won't get up. I will let my body rest. And again, for years, I just felt like, am I just being lazy? Like, is this just me being like unmotivated to get up? And I was like, no, it's just me being smart. Like, if I can do this, that means I can maybe squeeze out an extra 3 years down the line. So that, I'm actually, by losing time, I'm gaining time. If that makes sense. It sounds kind of strange, but no, and the one thing I'm very good at is I sleep. I sleep very well. which again, I know a lot of people struggle with, but there's so many tips that you can take on board to help that process of sleeping properly. But
I'm so similar to you. Just, give me a quiet room. It doesn't even need to be a quiet room. Give me a seat in a busy room and I'll be asleep. You know that commercial flight you just described? I'm the guy who's asleep before the plane even moves. I'm that guy.
Short haul flights from here to London, here to Scotland, out like a light.
Yeah.
The thing that wakes me up is the plane landing.
Yeah.
And it could be like midway through the day. It could be any time of day, and I'm just out for an hour.
Yep.
But then long haul flights a little bit different. But I've got a good tip that I'll tell you after the podcast.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
So I'm very keen because I know you have your own podcasts. You've been on a lot of podcasts. You've done a lot of interviews. You probably chat a lot about cystic fibrosis and how it affects your life and has affected your life. So I don't want to ask you a lot of the same questions. So I'm going to try and come at it slightly differently. Like, what's the best thing about living with cystic fibrosis?
The great thing is I've got so many answers to this, which is something that I didn't think I'd ever have. It definitely gives you a massive appreciation for life in general. That sounds so wishy-washy, but I don't care. People don't appreciate, and again, this is me included, people don't appreciate the things they have until they're gone. And luckily, it doesn't take much for me to get into that mindset of like, okay, just appreciate this. Like, I'll be out walking Ollie, and I'll just sit, and it'll just hit me. I'll just be like, I'm so damn glad I can walk, and I can breathe, and I don't have to panic about how long this walk's going to take because I have to be back for a certain time, or even the fact that I can walk as long as I want without feeling like I'm going to collapse, which a lot of people, that's reality to them. And it makes me it's probably made me a really laid back person. I think it's definitely made me a more laid back person. It's like my mum described me as like, obviously she's got two sons, my older brother and then myself. And my older brother is very highly strung and stressful. And she's just like, I don't think I've ever seen Benjamin. She calls me Benjamin. Like stressed. Like it's very rare that I'll see him stressed, because I just have the mentality, if it's not going to matter in 5 hours, don't spend 5 seconds on it. Like it's just get on with it. Stop sweating about the small things. Realistically, if I asked you about this 5 days later, you're going to be like, what was I panicking about? What was I thinking about? Like that's the reality. So I just think, shit happens. Get over it.
I think that 5-hour rule is going to be the title of this podcast. If it's not going to matter in 5 hours, don't spend the next 5 seconds worrying about it. I think we've just got our podcast title.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to jump into your fitness business. I know you've been on a massive journey in the fitness industry, from working with you, from observing it before social media, and now obviously with social media. So what's going on with Ben Mudge and Be More and your fitness business?
A lot. So obviously I started as most people start off, working in a gym, working in a commercial gym, which if you are starting as a PT, just work in a commercial gym. Don't think that you're like, do not go and work in an independent gym. Go to a commercial gym, learn the ropes there. And you know what? If you stay in a commercial gym, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. They're the best places for PTs to grow. So that's the one thing I'd say about anyone who's a PT. Listen to this. Start off there. I just love training people. Like I love seeing people progressing. I've always have. Like, and I love seeing people being passionate about things. But the best thing about it is making people happier. And that sounds so cheesy, but my number one priority of all my clients, and I say this to them every single time, is that they are happy. Mm-hmm. And that your happiness doesn't necessarily come from being in better shape aesthetically. It could be little things like someone saying, "Oh, you look nice in that dress today," or "That's a nice t-shirt. Where'd you get that from?" It's little tiny things that all those people that when they tell me this, I'm like, that's great. Like that's so good to hear. I love that. That's the thing. While seeing measurements and everything going down, I'm like, yes, that's the kind of progress-driven PT in me. But the personality PT in me, the personal trainer in me, is seeing people happier.
Yeah.
And even just speaking to them on the phone and hearing them sounding happier is like, it's just the best thing for me.
I always love, I'm just going to jump in. I always love,
mm-hmm.
so your client will come to you to, quote unquote, lose weight and tone up. So you do everything to get them to lose weight and tone up, and you'll get the before and after picture, you'll get the measurements. They might be lifting more in the gym. But I always love it. When you get that text message that says, Ben, you're a dick. I've just had to spend £500 on a new wardrobe.
Yep.
Because they're never expecting that. And I know that will come with a lot of clients.
Yep.
But I never prepare them for that. I just wait. Just wait. Because that's the light bulb moment in me. It's kind of like, hallelujah. That is the absolute moment that you're not taught about that when you do your level 2 or level 3.
No, not at all. But yeah, I said I love doing that, but then I realized very quickly it was when I was working in Fitness First that I got sick for the first time and had to be hospitalized. Sorry, second time. And that meant 3 weeks of being in hospital on IVs, which thankfully I was employed by Fitness First back then when they actually had fitness instructors. And so I was getting sick pay. But then I moved on to being a full-time PT. I realized, wait a minute, if I'm not in the gym, I can't get paid. Mm-hmm. So that's when I started looking at online coaching. And online coaching has been an incredible tool for me. It unfortunately kind of takes away the personal part for me a little bit. So I do what I can to make it as personal as possible, whether that's FaceTime calls, voice notes. I try and voice note people. I'm a big voice note fan because it just makes things a little bit, well, firstly, it's faster. Mm-hmm. And you feel like you're conversing with the person rather than just a text. So I try to keep the personal training in online training. But yeah, I realized that if I was an online coach, it means that I can be anywhere in the world. And I don't mean like sitting on a beach. I mean like anywhere in the world. My anywhere in the world was in a hospital ward. Mm-hmm. Sounds glamorous. And I could still be earning money, still looking after my house, paying my mortgage, looking after my wife, looking after my dog. I can still do all those things I need to do. And then I quickly realized, like, this is allowing me to work with people who I could never work with, which includes people with cystic fibrosis. Because obviously, well, not obviously, the thing with cystic fibrosis is that we can't come in contact with each other because of the chance of them or myself having a bug that myself or they don't have. So the chance of then cross-infection, which then causes that bug to become very powerful, like it evolves like a freaking Pokemon, that's very, very dangerous. So we cannot work on a personal level. Which I see your face is kind of...
You can probably see, by my face, I didn't know that. Yeah. So just repeat that. You can't be in the same room as somebody else with CF.
With cystic fibrosis, yeah.
Fuck.
Which, as you can imagine, creates a whole level of paranoia. Which is something you don't really think about until now you're thinking about it. You're like, oh wait, does that mean when you're in public you have to worry about who's standing beside you in a queue?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a whole other level of CF that I'm affected by more than the physical. Thankfully, I'm affected by the mental side of it. But and then in the last couple of months, really last year, I decided that I was going to really double down on working with people with cystic fibrosis. And the reason why I didn't do it for so long is because I was scared. I was honestly scared of working with people with CF because I knew that I was going to have to deal with a lot of tragedies and deaths and people who would come to me thinking I was like this Masonic figure that is going to be able to bring them from X lung function to Y lung function. The damage has been done with a lot of people with CF and their lung functions can't go back up. Again, that's me saying that. If you're listening to this and you've got CF, that doesn't mean that it can't happen. I've done it before. My lung functions went from 66% to now 101. Mm-hmm. So yes, it can be done, but yeah, there's different things. But yeah, I was scared of getting fully into that industry or fully into that kind of niche market because I was scared. I was scared of my own mental health. But then I realized that by me not doing this, I'm taking away such a positive impact on people or such a positive thing to people that I'm going to help so many more people than I can't save, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the amount of people I've helped now with these cystic fibrosis plans And what I've got planned is even cooler. So the next 6 months I'm going to be working towards something which I am so damn excited for. And I think the CF community, I don't think's, it's not ready for it, but it's going to be like, oh wow, how's this not existed before? So that's the kind of big thing I'm looking forward to.
How much can you tell us about that? Because that sounds really cool.
Yeah, so basically, how much can I tell you? So all I'll say, it's going to be called CF Strength.
Okay.
That's the website's name. And it'll be something the CF community doesn't have yet. But not only people who want to train, it's going to be for mothers whose kids have just been born with CF, who don't know where to turn, who want to be speaking to people and seeing people who are successful with cystic fibrosis. So it gives them something which is, in my opinion, the most priceless commodity that people can have, or asset, is hope. You cannot put a price on that. Mm-hmm. And the amount of messages I've gotten from people is incredible, that they've said, my kid's just been born with CF. I Googled CF. I just got all this life expectancy, lung functions, death from waiting to get lung transplant, liver transplant, all these things. It's pretty doom and gloom. And that they find me in a Men's Health or Men's Fitness cover, and they're like, oh, okay, so it's not all doom and gloom. There's this bit of hope. And basically, I want the website to be helping people like that, and lots of other things. But that's kind of the thing.
I love that. If I can ask, so you've always lived with this. You've always had people with cystic fibrosis gravitating towards you, whether that's from a fitness and health, let's go to the gym, let's work out point of view, or, and I'm thinking more about social media in that regards, or you've had mum messaging you about their new child. So why now? Why are you not afraid now? Because you use that word. Why are you not afraid right now?
I mean, fear is kind of not knowing, really, isn't it? It's just not knowing what it is. And I just sat down myself and thought, right, what am I actually scared of? What is it that I'm scared of? And in all honesty, it was my own mental well-being, because every time someone from the CF community dies, which is unfortunately way too regularly, it hits me like a ton of bricks. And I get this huge survivor's guilt that comes along with that, which again, a lot of people don't even think about. That for every person that dies, I think, why am I still here? Like, why did that family have to lose their son, their daughter, their son, their brother, their sister? Like, why? It's not fair. But then I realized that that's a small percentage, a very, very small percentage of people that die. Well, unfortunately not that small, but that's just one aspect of it. And there's so much. I was scared of the minority when I wasn't thinking about the majority of all the people I could help. The amount of message I've had in terms of, you've helped me do this, or I'm going to the gym now because of you, or I got a message the other day from a nurse who works in the CF ward who now says, my patients in my wards are now far more active because of you. They're now exercising because of you. Someone sent me a picture of me on the cover of Men's Fitness, pinned up in Canada in this children's CF ward on their little like playboard.
That's amazing.
Like, that's like, I have no shame in saying that I cry nearly every time I see something like that, because it's just the most incredible feeling in the world to think that I'm just doing what I deem is necessary for my own health, and it's changing people's lives and changing perceptions of this illness. But not only that, it's raising awareness for this illness. So getting a little bit emotional now.
Good.
But
I like it. I like it because it's very easy to choose a niche in this world for the, one goal of let's make as much money as possible. And people might get results, people might not get results. As long as they pay, as long as they pay me at the end of the month, business is happy. So I think I wouldn't even call it a niche, your calling as such.
Yeah.
And I think your reasons why, whether it's now, whether it was 6 years ago, I think they're absolutely perfect. So you were saying this website, this platform, 6 months, did you say?
Yeah, but 6 months. I'm not launching until it's where it needs to be. I want it to be exactly where I want it to be before anything goes out. So it's just content building at the moment and
brilliant.
Pulling together people who I want to be involved with it.
And I know you have a community live and active right now.
Yep. So I've got a Facebook group, which is good. The name's going to be changing, but it's the CF, Cystic Fibrosis Health and Fitness page. It's just a private group of people who are affected by cystic fibrosis. It doesn't need to be, you don't need to have it. It could be people who just want to know a bit more about it. But generally speaking, it's people who are affected by it, and their family is affected by it. They're, have people who join and I say, what's your relationship to CF? And they're like, oh, my grandson has it. Or there's a kid in my class, I'm a teacher, who has it and I want to learn a bit more about it. And I was like, that's flipping awesome that teachers going to that level just for some student. That's the type of people that need to be in schools. But yeah, it's incredible. It's growing every day, which is incredible.
Good, man. I'll obviously put all the information about that and you in the show notes. So it's really, really cool. So talk to me. You're sitting there, you're wearing the Be More t-shirt. Tell me about Be More. What's the concept?
So it's something I've been very lucky to work with clothing companies over the last 7 years. And I always had in my mind, I was like, it'd be cool to make my own t-shirts. It's nice that I'm representing these companies, some of them. And because I'm wearing something someone else wants to wear, that's cool to me. I was like, but it'd be nice if it was like personal to me and the message was personal to me. And I decided, right, I don't want to be working with any clothing companies for now. I'd rather make something my own. And it was one day I was sitting with my friend he owns a clothing company as well, who's helped me out. So thank you to Matt for helping me out with this. We're talking. He's like, "Oh, what do you want the logo to be?" I was like, "I don't know." Like, he's like, "Do you want it to be your name?" And I was like, "No, I don't want it to be my name. That's far too egotistical." Let's just say BM. People who know it will know that it stands for my initials, but if people don't, it's just 2 letters. It's fine. And I was like, yeah, because BM could stand for anything. It could be like, be more. I was like, huh, that sounds kind of cool. Like that's, I was like, because then that's kind of encapsulates me as a person. Like, and so many, it applies to so many aspects of life. It's so easy to just do the bare minimum, but the people who do well in life, they do more. Like they become more. It's kind of that question of like, do you want to be more in your life than just what either you or someone else has said that you were going to be? So for instance, me, I'm supposed to be this person with CF and that's it. But I was like, no, screw that. I want to be more than just that person with CF. I want to be Thor. I want to be the fittest person in the room. I want to make sure that in every aspect of my life, I want to become more than what other people think and what I think. So that's kind of where the message of Be More comes from. But yeah, I mean, I've sent them, I launched it 2 months ago, maybe. And I mean, you reached out to me about them, which I really appreciate. And I think I sent them to Australia, America. Loads have gone to America, Canada, Mexico, South Korea, Germany. You can tell I know these because I wrote them myself. I wrote all the addresses myself. Holland, the Netherlands, sorry. Loads went to England. France, believe it or not, France is the most expensive place to send.
Really?
France. I know. I was like, okay, Australia, strap it in here. How much is this going to cost? Oh, okay, cool. And then France, okay, this is going to be like, 2-3 quid. I'll be 6 quid. And I was like, What? For France? Sure, just come over and get it themselves. But yeah, it's been cool.
That's madness. That's madness. I still need to get on and order the hoodies. I think when I went on for one of the hoodies, they didn't. It was coming up.
Pre-sale.
Yeah, pre-sale, and then there was another one I saw. It wasn't a size thing.
No, the sizing. Yeah, I hadn't put in the sizing yet.
So I need to get on, get my hoodie from you, because I think they're cool. We'll obviously put it in the show notes, but for people who don't know, I like it because it's, this is a guy thing. It's high neckline, which makes your chest look big, and it's branding right across the center of your chest. So it's just a big Be More, and then you've got the Thursday top as well, the Thursday logo, and it's just right across the middle, and it's big and it's bold, and there's even yellow designs as well, and yellow is my color, so that's they're the two I'll be buying. I look forward to that. I absolutely love this. I wanted to chat quickly about training, because there was one thing you documented this absolutely fantastic. I want to say 5 months ago. You've touched on it briefly already when you had a poor result about what your lung function was.
Yes,
and then you had to basically have a word with yourself, go through a protocol to get that lung function back. So, describe that briefly if you can.
So basically, it was the beginning of this year, my lung functions dropped. So basically, to give people an understanding of lung function, someone my age, weight, and height without cystic fibrosis is 100% on the scale. So if you cloned me, that clone didn't have CF, he should have 100% lung function. Mine, I'd gotten mine up to 100% or very close. I think it was 98%. And it dropped back down to 82%, which is again.
Why did it drop down? Do you know?
I think I kind of didn't feel that good. I'd had a bit of a cold. My training had been more based on aesthetics than athletics, which again was just vanity creeping in there. It was also coming out of the winter period, which is always rough for people with cystic fibrosis because everyone gets sick during winter. Reduced sunlight, waking up in the dark, going to bed at dark. It's just not good for your mental health either, including vitamin D consumption. So everyone gets sick. So it dropped down, and I said 82% is something. It's a very high lung function percentage for people with cystic fibrosis. In fact, someone in my group just commented he's 24 and his lung functions are 25%, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, this needs to change. I know I can do more to get this up. So it's basically time to go to work. So I did everything I could. I increased more my fitness training sessions. So I was like, okay, it's easy to do a bodybuilding session today. That's what I want to do. But what I need to do is a Metcon, something that gets my lungs really working and clears up any of that mucus that may be potentially sitting down there. Also need to be just generally more active. So I was like, right, I'm going to set a certain amount of steps that I need to hit. And it genuinely got to the point where I was standing in my living room, and my living room to my front of the house isn't that big. But I would literally pace it. Literally looking at my watch being like, okay, there's 10,000. It would take me 20 minutes, but I'd get it done. And then I also went over to England to visit a guy called the Breath Coach, who basically taught me how to breathe correctly. And it sounds so stupid when you say it, but people
at the age of 29.
Yeah. People do not breathe. I guarantee if you're sitting listening to this, if you put your hand on your chest, hand on your stomach, your chest's going to be raising a lot more than your stomach.
I'm literally doing it now for the podcast listeners.
Yeah. So you may be good at it.
The chest will raise more, you said?
Most people chest breathe. They'll pull in through their chest and their stomach stays flat. It's literally this simple. You look at a kid breathing, their stomach's like a little Buddha. Like a little child, like my nephew. He just walks around with his wee belly out. But it's not his belly, it's just his stomach, his diaphragmatic expansion through his stomach. As soon as you get to adulthood, or not even, as soon as you get to child age where vanity or looks become a thing, self-consciousness becomes a thing, what do? Suck your stomach in. So then therefore you can't get full diaphragmatic expansion, because breathing diaphragmatically makes your stomach look huge. And that's as simple as that, and it's not deemed as nice looking. So people don't do it. They breathe through the chest, which means they're only getting this upper portion of their lungs with oxygen in it. Like they can't. It's very difficult to get it all the way down to the bottom. So basically, this guy taught me how to breathe properly, how to sit and control my breathing, and not only that, he took me through a breathing exercise, which I'm not joking. It felt like I went to a different dimension. It was incredible. And he was just me. He was just, hand on my chest, hand on my stomach. He's like, right, breathe through here, hold for 3 seconds, breathe out, breathe out. All these amazing breathing techniques that I could have been there for 30 seconds, also could have been there for 30 minutes. I had no concept of time whatsoever. But my brain went all these different, that's the best way I can explain it. It's like going to different realities. And when I woke up, I was just like, I felt like I was high. And that's just from breathing. It was incredible. But that being more conscious of my breathing, practicing those little tips he gave me, came back and my lung functions went to 101%. 101%.
Yeah.
So I've got another one coming up on Friday. So I've got my nebulizer sitting right here, ready to take that.
Also, and those lung, that increase in lung capacity, was that solely from the breath coach, or did you make changes to your diet, your lifestyle, your training?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. It wouldn't be just one thing. Just getting in shape is not just going to the gym or eating. It's going to this gym, being consistent, moving, eating correctly, resting correctly, reducing stress. It's lots of little things that add up to one big thing. It's like I said the analogy. It's like a puzzle. If you look at a puzzle and its individual pieces, it's just little pieces that don't really make sense. But then when you put them all together, it makes a beautiful piece of art.
And you are a beautiful piece of art, Ben.
Thank you very much.
Just before I finish, just conscious of time, I know you've had a couple of different podcasts that you've done of your own.
Yep.
So what's going on in your own podcast space right now?
So we've got Fitness Made Simple, which is the podcast that I run with my co-host Adam. We got to 50 episodes. Not surprisingly successful. That's kind of belittling ourselves, but very, very well received. We decided to cap it at 50 for now, put it on the shelf for a little bit, come back and revisit and do season 2, just to give ourselves a break. Because it was as you know, it's an episode every single week. And the human body doesn't change massively, and we were doing it a lot on exercise and nutrition, not many interviews, so you kind of had to talk about the same things in different ways. We just didn't want to become stale. And then the other podcast I'm running again I've started it fresh, is the Be More podcast. And it's basically a podcast for people with cystic fibrosis and for people who want to learn a little bit more about cystic fibrosis. But the best thing about it is that I've said this all my life. Advice I give to people with cystic fibrosis is completely applicable to people without it. They are all the same things. That's what I said at the start of this. I am a person. I'm not an alien. I'm not a god of thunder. I am a person. And all the principles I do will apply to you and better your life as a normal person without cystic fibrosis. So yeah, if you want to listen to that I dive into a little bit more about CF, and I'm going to be speaking to people within the CF community. I'm going to get people on with CF who have done incredible things. So yeah, if you want to listen to a podcast that maybe just give you a little bit of insight into what it's like, you get good information, and you know what, it might just inspire you to go out and do something you never did before.
That's cool. I'll find them. I assume they'll be on iTunes and Spotify and all the rest. I'll stick them in the show notes.
Yeah, that's it.
We spoke about it just before we hit record. A good friend of mine specializes in cystic fibrosis, and she is a qualified doctor. So these questions are from Dr. Katie Patterson, who is now based in Edinburgh. I suppose I should know the exact location, so I'll apologize for that in advance. So one of the questions that really, really intrigued me is your choice of physical training exercise determined for what's best for your health or what you enjoy the most? So I'm asking that because of what you just said about bodybuilding and how you enjoy that, but you appreciate it might not be best for you at any given moment.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it definitely does affect my choice and what I do. The one thing I will say is that I've always maintained the mindset that I want to look like an ornament, but moving like an instrument.
Oh, that's one of my favorite sayings. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I want to look, I think the human body is the most impressive, beautiful things to exist. Like, I just think it's gorgeous. Like, there's a reason why most art and most sculptures are of the human body, because it's just a fantastic piece of not only nature but engineering. And when you really understand how the body works, you realize how little you understand about how the body works. It's just incredible things that are going on a microscopic level that just you take for granted. So for me, like, I always wanted to look like the statues and like Greek statues and, you know, like Hercules and all the kind of Greek athletes you'd see in those awesome poses, like in the Olympic Games. I thought that's the physique I want to have. So bodybuilding's always kind of been in the back of my mind, but I always thought I want that muscle to be functional. I want to be able to actually be able to use it and look like, if someone picked me for their football team or their rugby team, they're picking me because of how I look, but then they'll also get what they expect from how I look, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Nothing worse than picking a guy who's jacked and he runs like 3 feet and he's like, I'm gassed. You're like, oh, come on, dude. Like, if you look like that, at least work like that. So my training, you know, the one thing I'll say is, like, you have to enjoy your training, otherwise you're not going to want to go. So my response to training is, what am I feeling this week? So I was doing full body for a couple of weeks there, mainly because I wasn't able to train as frequently as I'd like to. And also then I had to think about recovery for American football. So I had to think about all these things. So full body was my thing. So that was just one big body part, one big compound movement per muscle group. That's it, done. Loved it. It's a great way of training. Fantastic way of training, in fact, if you are pushed for time and just want to get maximum results. But now, as I trained with my friend Dan and Alex over the weekend, I'm like, oh, CrossFit was fun. So today, I want to go do CrossFit. So I'm going to do that. So my training literally does depend on what's going to get me to the gym, because I'm sure exactly the same thing as well, and people listen to this, the hardest part about going to the gym is getting to the gym.
Yeah.
As soon as you're there, fine. Like, that's the hard part done. Actually getting to the gym is the hardest part. But once you're there, just enjoy yourself. But for me, it's kind of that mix of, I need to enjoy it, which is going to make me go, but then I also need to do things that suck, because that's what makes me better. And oftentimes the things that you suck at are the things that are going to make you better, and you avoid them because they suck, which means you don't get better. So it's a horrible vicious cycle. But yeah, it's a very good question.
I know you got a new piece of furniture into the house, which is now where you watch your TV shows, I'm sure. So what piece of furniture is that? Did you get it from Debenhams or any big furniture shops?
What was it? I think it might have been... Oh, the assault bike.
Yeah, so you have an assault bike sitting basically in your living room.
Yeah, so we're moving house in 4 weeks, my wife and I, and the garage, I finally got a garage.
Yes.
So that garage is getting turned into a gym. But I was like, I want it now. I want it back. Like a big child. I was like, no, I want to wait for 6 weeks. I want it now. So yeah, sitting in the living room. So myself and my wife do like 20 minutes a day. I stupidly did the other day. I was like, right, let's see how quickly I can do 250 calories on it.
I saw that. What was it? 15 minutes, was it?
Yeah, 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's insane. For those who haven't really done a lot of work on assault bikes, like, you'll know 2 minutes on assault bike feels, I wouldn't say it feels like an hour. It feels like you're pulling the world behind you or pushing the world in front, or both. It's just a brutal experience. Yeah.
Kicking in. Yeah. And this one, the ones in my gym are quite light. Like, I can move them very, very. This thing's a beast. Like, see, when the fan starts going, it genuinely sounds like, it's so satisfying, but it sounds like a turbine. The gym are kind of like a little kid toy. This thing's like you can. There's like a shelf thing in front of us, in front of it, and Janice had her birthday cards on it, and they all just flew off. I was like,
it's like, your birthday's over now anyway.
Time for exercise. But yeah, Ollie doesn't have a clue what's going on when you get on it, though.
I've seen a few
So funny.
videos of that on your Instagram story. You're very, very good at documenting that. Yeah. Just stands and watching, wonders what daddy's doing.
Constantly trying to get in my lap.
So I've got a couple of finishing questions. The first one you've already answered. So it's what's next for Ben. Obviously moving house, and you've got the website to look forward to.
Yep.
Very busy.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit busy few months, definitely.
Are you doing the paddleboard again?
Undetermined.
Okay, that's cool.
I've done it twice now.
Yeah.
So to give people an idea what that is, it's paddleboarding from Florida to the Bahamas on a paddleboard.
How far?
It's 80 miles.
How long would that take on a paddleboard?
First year it took me 14 and a half hours. And then this time we didn't finish it because of tragic events. Like everyone on my boat got sick. A guy got so sick that he had to get IVs on the boat, which then we couldn't move because the paramedics had to find us, give him the IVs. It took 45 minutes to find us, 45 minutes to administer IVs, 15 minutes to sit with him, make sure he was okay. And they just collapsed into a ball. So it was the decision of me push on. And me and my friend Tong were the only two kind of paddlers who were athletic enough and stubborn enough to keep going. We were nowhere near experienced. I was the most experienced one on my boat, which says a lot because the only time I paddled was the one last year. Everyone kind of looked at me like, we go with what you say. They all looked at me though like I'm going to vomit any second now. I was the only one on the boat that didn't get seasick as well. Everyone was massively seasick. So I was sitting there feeling fine, falling asleep on the deck of the boat, like all good. Now waking up every time someone retching over the side. So last year was a bit of a nightmare, but they've asked me to come back again. So we'll see.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
The next one I have is, what is the last book you read and who would you recommend it for?
See, this is the thing. I don't read my books. I listen to them because I just can't.
I'm very sure.
Yeah. I mean, I just know my weaknesses. And my weakness is the attention span to sit and read a book. Whereas I'm out walking Ollie, I can listen to a book. So it's the best of both worlds. The last book I read was, I think it was either Awaken the Giant Within or Unlimited Power. Yeah, those are the last two books I read, and I'm listening to another one at the moment. But those are two Anthony Robbins books. Genuinely anyone.
Yeah. Actually,
anybody can read those books or listen to those books. They are short. They are precise. They are freaking awesome. I'd say start with Awaken the Giant Within, because essentially it's just saying that what I said earlier, and if someone else can do something, so can you. But it starts with that belief. And once you start manifesting that belief that you can do whatever someone else can do, you're unstoppable.
Do you know what? I've had Awaken the Giant in my Audible account probably since I got Audible, maybe about 2 years ago. And I've never listened to it. Like it's always just been there.
Yeah, it's like not even 2 hours long, is it?
Oh, don't tell me that. You'll give me the guilt.
It's literally like, let me just check. I need to check, but it is super, super brief. Like I think I read it, listened to it, in about 3 walks. It's an hour and a half. No, an hour and a half long. Right.
Well, I'm driving to Edinburgh tomorrow. That's an hour and a half. So I'll share it on Instagram and tag you in it. There's my accountability.
There you go.
Yeah. And then the last one, I've heard this on a couple of other podcasts, and I thought it was really cool, and I never wanted to do this question until I heard it organically myself in its original format, which I believe is Tribe of Mentors. And it's, what purchases under £100 have you made that have just had amazing impact in your life for whatever reason?
The assault bike was sure as hell not £100.
What are that? They must be about 1,500, maybe more.
Yeah,
upwards. The eyes are saying upwards.
Yeah, how about that? What have I purchased? It's a really good question. I was trying to think about this, and I don't make that many purchases, to be honest. And most of the things I spend money on is food, which again does not cost under £100 most of the time. I'll tell you what. I'm just gonna go with this one. I spent 50 quid on sushi the other night, and I know that's not a tangible thing because you have to eat it, but it was out with my friends. It was in a great environment. I freaking love sushi. We got really good conversation out of because we went to go get food. So that's like kind of the best purchase I've made, just in terms of like conversations and making memories. And sushi's awesome. So there you go. It's a bit out of center, but that's the last thing I can, like a tangible thing that I bought, even though I had it.
Important message behind it. I'm just out of pure. I haven't lived in Belfast for a while. Where is good in Belfast for sushi?
Kamakura.
Okay, where's that now?
Do you know the kind of Asian, the Omar Road?
Yes.
Like that kind of Asian strip where you've got all the Asian supermarkets, and down there. They should be paying me. I'm bringing people.
We'll tag them.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome, Ben. Thank you so much. Just a quick reminder of where people can find you to follow your story, your journey.
So Instagram's probably the best place to get me. That's where I'm most active. It's just at @BenMudge _. Someone's still got Ben Mudge. He hasn't posted in like 6 years, but I'll get him. Instagram's probably the best. I'm on Facebook as well, but then most of my stuff just gets shared from Instagram to that. So that's pretty much it.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. I'll put everything in the show notes, and I'll catch you once I hit the big stop recording button.
You're listening to the Ricky Long Podcast.
Hopefully it came across in that episode just genuinely how much we enjoyed connecting with each other. I know I enjoyed so much just listening to Ben and listening to his story, finding out more about Ben and what he's been through and the way he lives his life. It's truly very, very inspiring for me and for quite literally thousands and thousands of other people right across the globe. You can check out all of Ben's details in the show notes. And a reminder, this episode, we're doing the giveaway with Podium for Sport. Take a screenshot, tag me, tag Podium for Sport, tag Ben Mudge, stick it on your Instagram story. Give it some love, spread the love. Any questions, give us a shout. This is the Ricky Long Podcast.
You are listening to the Ricky Long Podcast, where international fitness entrepreneur Ricky Long answers your questions and interviews fitness leaders on training, nutrition, and mindset. Be sure to leave a review on iTunes.